Are you ready for quarterly estimated tax payment number 1 for 2025? The deadline is quickly approaching. It is April 15th, 2025. Don't worry, in this video podcast, I've got you covered. We're going to be going over not only budgeting tips, but also how to save and how much to save, as well as important deadlines that you need to follow and know about in order to stay ahead and to avoid any penalties and interest. Welcome to the Locum CPA podcast. My name is Stephen Lee, a CPA based out of Chicago, Illinois, that specializes in locum medical professionals. Today, we're going to be breaking down how to effectively budget for 2025 quarterly taxes. This is going to include quarterly tax planning, deductions, and strategies to lower your tax bill. But before we talk about budgeting, we want to help you understand what taxes you're responsible for as a business owner. There are several types of taxes, but let's go over some of the main ones. Remember, if you are a sole proprietor, an LLC, a freelancer, then you're going to be subject to self-employment and business taxes, right? That's both self-employment and business taxes, and self-employment taxes is very high. It's 15.3%. And if you have employees, you also have to handle their payroll taxes. Business taxes are something that is related to the type of entity that you have set up, whether you're an S Corp or a C Corp or a PLLC, whatever that might be, whatever election that you made, the entity type that you are makes a big difference if you're going to owe business taxes. For example, if you are operating as a locums professional and you have a PLLC set up in the state of Illinois and you have profits for the year, you're going to be subject to something called Illinois replacement tax, which is 1.5% of the net profit for the entire year. So you want to be sure that you understand what your entity setup is. Are you a sole proprietor, LLC, PLLC, an S corporation? And with that comes different tax responsibilities from self-employment and business taxes. Quarterly estimated taxes. So unlike employees, if you have ever had a W-2 job, you'll notice that the employer or your employer will withhold income taxes each and every paycheck. But if you're self-employed or if you're a business owner, you are your own employer, right? So you have to withhold and you have to save something called quarterly estimated taxes and submit those on a quarterly basis. So how do you do this, right? First off, let's go over the deadlines on when these taxes are due, the quarterly estimates. The tax deadlines for 2025 include April 15th, which is quarter 1, and this covers the months of January, February, March, the first 3 months of the year. June 16th, which is quarter 2, and this covers only 2 months, which is April and May. September 15th, which is quarter 3, it covers income earned in the months of June, July, and August. Okay, back to 3 months. And then January 15th of 2026, this is the payment deadline for quarter 4, which includes 4 months, September, October, November, and December. Okay, so quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, they're kind of staggered. They're not every 3 months, so you have to be aware of that. One of the really good tips I want to give you is write these deadlines down, mark them in your calendar, and mark not only the payment deadline date, April 15th, June 16th, September 15th, and January 15th of 2026, but also 2 to 3 weeks before that deadline, start to gather your finances together, as well as how to calculate, what's going to be due for quarters 1 through 4. Okay, so not only providing a reminder 2 to 3 weeks before the payment deadline, but also marking the payment deadlines. So now let's talk about how to budget for taxes efficiently. And I have 3 recommendations here. The first one is to set aside a certain percentage of every payment that you receive from your locums engagement, right? So a lot of locum professionals ask me, how much should I save for taxes, right? For quarterly estimated tax payments. And what I say as a good rule of thumb is somewhere between 25 to 35% of your income for taxes. So for example, let's say you've earned $10,000 of 1099 income this month or for the entire quarter. So what you want to do is, if you use that rule of thumb of 25 to 35%, you want to set aside $2,500 or up to $3,500 into a tax savings account immediately. And what I recommend is to open up a separate tax account that's different from your normal business checking account. It could just be a savings account under the same name, but have a separate account so you can transfer the taxes that are budgeted so that you don't mistakenly spend from there, right? So once again, a good rule of thumb is to set a certain percentage of your monthly or quarterly earnings between 25 and 35%. And if you want a more detailed breakdown on how to calculate quarterly estimated tax payments, I'll pin a link here to the video that I produced before that goes all about quarterly estimated tax payments. All right, another tip that I have here is to track and categorize your deductions. As a locums professional, you probably have deductible expenses that you definitely want to be tracking as well as recording and apply this to your quarterly estimated tax payment calculation. And just to go over some of the most common tax deductions that you have as a locum tenens professional: travel expenses. So this includes flights, rental cars, mileage, and even tolls that you pay are deductible if they're related to your locums assignment. Lodging and meals, hotels, per diem meals rates during your assignments can be written off. Licensing and credentialing fees. So state licensing, certifications, credentialing costs are all eligible for deductions. Malpractice insurance. If you purchase your own coverage, this is a significant deductible expense that you don't want to miss. And then continuing medical education, CME expenses. This is for fees for courses, seminars, or even related travel costs are deductible for these CME requirements, right? So you want to make sure you are keeping track of all the applicable locum related expenses for your profession. And if you're like some of my clients who have a W-2 job at a hospital, as well as some side 1099 locums income, you want to make sure any deductible expenses that are non-reimbursed by your hospital, that includes like CME expenses especially, you want to be able to offset some of your locums income with that. So make sure you're tracking these things. And one of the things that I definitely do recommend is to utilize something called QuickBooks or Xero or some type of bookkeeping software that you want to use to track these things to keep it well organized. The third tip I have is set the reminder and submit payment for taxes that are due. So instead of scrambling around, right, and forgetting the quarterly estimated tax deadline, you want to set calendar reminders, once again, 2 to 3 weeks before the deadline, as well as the day of the payment due date, right? Second is to use an online payment system to submit the quarterly estimated taxes, right, for federal and some of you state income taxes as well. Because if you are working on a locums assignment in a state that does tax income, you want to submit quarterly estimated taxes not only to the IRS, which is federal, but also to that state for the locums income earned in that state. And then also consider hiring a CPA, right, that can help you track these things and is well versed in multi-state taxes, because many locum professionals like yourself are working in multiple states at different hospitals. So you want to make sure that you're working with a certified professional. Some advanced tax strategies to keep more of your hard-earned locums money. So first things first is not only tracking your deductions and offsetting the total income earned, but also forming potentially an S corporation to reduce self-employment taxes. Remember earlier in the podcast, I was talking about self-employment taxes, and that's right around 15.3%, which is very high. That's on top of income taxes, right? Self-employment taxes, then income taxes, right? So there's two taxes here. But if you were to form an S corporation, then this will help you reduce your potential self-employment taxes. Remember, in my previous videos, what I always recommend is if you're earning $80,000 or more, then it's probably worthwhile to make an S selection for your LLC, PLLC, okay? So switching from an LLC or PLLC to an S corporation, making that election can help save you thousands of dollars each and every year. But remember, you have to pay yourself a reasonable salary if you set up that S corporation, right? So there's reasonable salary as well as distributions, right? I'll also pin another link in terms of reasonable salary and what that is and reasonable compensation. You definitely want to review that. Another key tax saving strategy for all you locum professionals to help you lower your quarterly estimated taxes is to max out your retirement contributions. And in previous videos, I talk about the solo 401k, the SEP IRA. Those are two very powerful retirement savings vehicles that not only can you also contribute from the employee perspective, but also employer. The SEP IRA is just an employer contribution, but when you talk about the solo 401k, that's both employee and employer, which can be very powerful. So you want to refer to that video as well. All right, just to summarize here, as you're getting ready for quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four, whenever you're watching this video, remember to set aside a certain percentage of your earnings. And let's talk about net earnings. That's income minus deductible expenses. Set aside a certain percentage. Remember, I recommend between 25 and 35%. Try to save a little bit more. So probably more closer to 35% into a separate savings account or checking account that's dedicated for taxes, right? So it's there when you need it and when you need to pay it. Also, set calendar reminders, not only 2 to 3 weeks before the payment deadlines, but also on the payment deadline. Mark in your calendars in Outlook, in Google, wherever you have your calendar on your phone or on computer, you want to mark the quarterly estimated tax payment deadlines. There's 4 of them, remember that. And then lastly, consider forming an S corporation or as well as maximizing retirement contributions to lower your taxable income. All of these videos, this podcast really is dedicated for you locums professionals to really help you not only maintain compliance throughout the year, but also to help you reduce your taxable income, which will result in paying less taxes overall. All right, I hope this video and this podcast was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as leave some comments in the comment section below in regards to some of the questions that you might have as a locums professional. Until next time, I wish you a wonderful day. Bye.